friends and welcome to Obsidian Soft. Today I will teach you how to make a tic-tac-toe game in MIT App Inventor. We will not be using any extensions, so you can make this game for both iPhones and Android devices. Let's have a look at the demo. So let's begin. Open up MIT App Inventor, go to Project, start a new project. Let's call it Tic-Tac-Toe. Keep the toolkit default. In Screen 1's properties, make the screen orientation portrait. From layout, drag and drop a horizontal arrangement onto the viewer and make its height 28% and the width fill parent. From user interface, drag and drop a button onto this horizontal arrangement. Make background color light gray, font bold, font size 60, and make the height fill parent and the width 33%, and remove all text from it. Select this button and duplicate it by pressing Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V on the keyboard for Windows or Command-C, Command-V for Mac OS. Again, duplicate it. Now select the horizontal arrangement and duplicate it. Again, duplicate the second arrangement. Okay. Now we need another horizontal arrangement but with different elements or components in it. So I'm just going to put a new horizontal arrangement here and I'm going to make align horizontal and align vertical center in its properties, and I am going to make the height 10% and the width fill parent. Okay, and inside this last horizontal arrangement I need a label which is my status label, and I'm going to rename it to status LBL and font bold, font size 20, and the text on it says turn : X. Okay, and I also need a button and I'm going to rename it to reset button, and background color yellow, font bold, font size 20, width 40%, shape rounded, and the text on it says reset. Our screen design is done, so let's go to the block section. We need a global variable to tell who the current player is. When the game is started, it's always X. We need a status variable called gameActive to determine whether the game is still playable. That is, if it has been a draw, then gameActive will be set to false, or if a winner has been determined, then it will also be set to false. But when the game is started, the game is active, so it's true. We need a list that will contain only our game buttons and not any other button that we add, that is the reset button or some other button that you add in your screen design. I'm just going to add these 9 buttons to that list. So right click, duplicate, and this is game buttons, and this is from lists, an empty list block. And we need another list, and that is our winning combinations. Combos for short. It will be a list that will contain the indexes of the buttons which, if they contain the same current player, that is either X or O, that means a winner has been found. So if I go back to the designer, so one item in this winning combo list will be 1, 2, and 3, a list containing 3 items, 1, 2, 3. Another item will be 4, 5, 6. So these are actually the indexes of these buttons in our buttons list, okay? And there will be 8 winning combinations, that is 3 rows, 3 columns, and 1, 2 diagonals, okay? And we will set it up in our screen initialize event. So let's quickly get that. From screen 1, get its screen1.initialize event and our winning combinations. So let's fill up this list. So go to lists, get the add items to list block, and the list is our winning combos. So hover over it to get the get block for it. And remember, this is a list too. Okay, so from lists, get the make a list block. Click on the cogwheel to add another item on it because we need 3 indexes for each winning combination. And the first winning combination, the 3 indexes are 1, 2, 3. If I right click, duplicate. For the second winning combination, the indexes are 4, 5, 6. Duplicate. Now this is very important because if you make a mistake here, your game will not work. So 7, 8, 9. We have taken care of the 3 rows. This, and this. Now we come to the columns. Right click, duplicate, and this is now 1, 4, 7, first column. Second column is 2, 5, 8. Do it carefully so that you don't make an accidental mistake. 3, 6, and 9. And the last 2 items are the diagonal combinations, which are 1, 5, 9, and the second is 3, 5, and 7. Okay, at the end we have to add all our 9 buttons to our buttons list. Okay, so I can right click and duplicate it and change this to my game buttons and get rid of this make a list block. And here if I click on my button 1 and go down, I can actually get the button component. Now the order here is very important in which you add the buttons. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and this is 1, 2, 3 because we will be using the positions of these buttons while checking for winners inside our game buttons list. So we have to be very careful when adding these buttons to our buttons list. That is, I don't accidentally add button 5 at the second slot. I have to add the second button, that is this button. Okay, so right click, duplicate, button 3, duplicate, button 4, eight, and last, the 9th button. As we have our own game buttons list, now we can take advantage of our any component, any button, when any button click event. Okay, so I don't have to make click events for each button. I can handle all the game buttons in one condition and the reset button in one condition. So because we are going to be checking for conditions, we need from control the if then else block, and from logic get the equal to block. And if I hover over component, I can get the get block for it. And if I go to reset button and go down, I can actually get the component. So this if condition, all the code inside here will be for resetting a game, and this we can assume that the button clicked. If it is not the reset button, it means it is one of these game buttons. So when the reset button is clicked, we have to put our game back to its original state. That is, we have to remove all the text from our game buttons, okay? And we have to set the game active status variable to true and the player again back to X. What we can do is that from control, we can get the for each item in list block, and here the list is our game buttons list. Okay, let me make it a bit bigger. So for each item in list game buttons, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set each button's text to an empty text block, and I'm also going to make the background color gray, because in case of a win situation, I will be making the background yellow for the winning buttons. So I have to set it back to light gray in case the game is restarted. Okay, so I'm going to use any component feature, that is, I can set any button's text to empty if I just provide the button. Okay, so set buttons text to an empty text block, and which button? Each and every item in our game buttons is a button. So I have to set them all one by one to an empty text, and I also have to set the background color to light gray. So from colors, I can get the light gray block. Okay. And then I have to set my game active to true, and my right click duplicate player to X, and I also have to update my status label, okay, to the game initial state. I can actually go here and copy this turn:X from here. So I'm going to use Control C on my keyboard. I've copied it, and I just come back here and status label and set text to a text block, and I'm going to Control V the thing that I had copied, turn:X. Okay, now our else is the situation that is a game button has been clicked. So for that, I will be making two procedures, one for checking the winner and one for checking for draw. So click on procedures, get the first one, and this is check winner. So what we are going to do is that using a for loop, we are going to go through each of our winning combinations, that is our winning combos list, and we are going to check whether in our game buttons list, the buttons at these three positions have the current player as text. Okay, so instead of making if else blocks for each and every winning combination, I will just use a for loop and use these stored indexes to check for a winner. So in check winner, from control, I need for each item in list block, and the list is our winning combination. I can right click, duplicate on this get block and choose winning combos here. And now I am going to check for each winning combination whether the positions in that winning combination, the game buttons have the current player on those positions. Okay, so from control, I get the if then block, and from logic, I get the and block, right click, duplicate another and block because we have three positions. Plug this in, and now what I'm going to do is that from lists, get the select list item block and right click, duplicate, just do it very carefully, game buttons, and then what is the index? The index is another item From which list? This item list, okay? So this is actually a list. Each item in the winning combos is a list that contains an index at slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. So don't be confused by 1, 2, 3. Have a look at this one. So at slot 1 we have 4, at slot 2 we have 5, at slot 3 we have 6, and that is a winning combination. So we will be checking for each slot. So the first one, okay, and what will be checking? We will be checking the button's text. So you can use the any component, any button, go down and get the text. So I actually need an equal to block too. Plug that in, plug this one here, and this one will be now, if I right click, duplicate, and this is the current player. So we first of all check if the first slot in our winning combination has the current player, and right click, duplicate. The second slot also has the same current player, right click, duplicate, and the third slot, so make sure that you change it to 1, 2, 3, has the same current player. So in this case, this means that the winning has been decided, the current player is the winner. Now what we need to do is that we have to change these 3 buttons, their background color to yellow, and update the status, okay? And how can we set it to yellow? We just go to any button and again set background color, plug that in, and now I know that the winner has been determined for this particular item, okay? So I have to set it to yellow, okay? And we have to do it for the second index 2 and the third index 2, okay? So we are going to go through our winning combos list. We will first check if when we go inside the loop for the first time, our winning combos will be 1, 2, 3. So we will check if in our game buttons 1, 2, 3, that is the first row, have the same current player. If they don't have it, then we will go on to the next winning combination, which is 4, 5, 6. So we will check for 4, 5, 6, okay? And so on and so forth. And after we have done this, we are going to set our game active status to false. This means a winner has been determined. So we have to tell that the game is not active anymore. And we also have to update our status label that a winner has been determined, which is a text block, in fact a join of 3. So just click on the cogwheel to add that, and text, this is player space, right click, duplicate, current player, right click, duplicate, space, wins, okay? Now we need a procedure for checking for draw, because this winning checking is done. So if I go to procedures and I check for draw. So how can we check for that? What we can do is we are going to set our global active to false in the very beginning, okay? So I'm just going to set it to false. Don't worry, we are going to check and rectify it and fix this if the game is still active. And how can we determine if the game is still active? If we can find a single empty button in our game buttons, okay? Again, from control, get the for each item in list block, right click duplicate just for getting the getter, and this is game buttons. And in our game buttons list, we are going to check using the control if then, and from logic equal to, and from any component, any button text for the item. So each item is a button. So if the text is empty for that button, this means that there is still one playable position left. In this case, we are going to set our game active status variable back to true. And we're also going to break out of the loop because we don't need to check anymore, okay? So we break out of it, and once we break out of it, depending upon the value inside game active, we are going to update the status label, okay? So again, control, if then, make sure you put it outside the for loop, and from logic, get the not block, and right click duplicate to get the get block, and this is game active. So if game active is false, then not false will mean true, okay? So in that case, this means that the game is a draw. This will not be the case if game active has been turned true, set to true when an empty text was found. This will be only the case if we have gone through the entire for loop without finding a single empty space, and so our game active will be false, and then not false means true. In this case, we will be updating the status label to right click duplicate. It's a draw, exclamation mark, okay? Now let's come back to our else condition here, and we will be using our procedures to check for winner, and then we will check for draw, and if a winner or a draw is not determined, then we will allow the user to go for the next turn, okay? So first of all, using the control if block and logic and block, we are going to check if the game is active and the button that the user has clicked was empty, that is, it was not already played by someone, okay? This is important because, for example, if there is already an X or O on it, then that should not be considered a turn, okay? So if game is active and the button's text, any component, any button, sorry, I had to get the logic equal to block, plug that in, and button text of which component? This component, the button, the component that has been clicked by the user. If the text on it is empty, that means it can be played by the user and the game is still active. In this case, I am going to first of all update the text for that button to the current player, okay? So if I go to any button and set the button's text to the current player, so I can right click duplicate component, right click duplicate, and this is now the current player. So I'm going to update the text and then I'm going to call check winner, okay? Let me bring it down a bit. So I'm going to call here now check winner, the procedure that we had constructed, because we have set the button's text to the current player. Now we need to check for winner. So call check winner. This will execute all the code of the procedure checking for winner. And at the end, if a winner has been determined, our game active status will be set to false. So to proceed forward, we need to again check for game active. So from control, get the if, then block, and here we are going to again check for game active. And now I am going to check for draw. Okay. After this, either the game active status will be set to false or it will be still true. Now again, if I right click duplicate, so I have to check again for game active, and if the game is still active, in this case I am going to update my current player. Okay, so how can I do that? From control, get the if then else block, and from logic, get the equal to block and get this current player. So if the current player is equal to text, and make sure that you either use capital X and capital O's throughout or lowercase. Okay, so case is important. So if the current player was previously X, we have to now make the current player O. Okay, and in the other situation, that means the current player was O, so we have to set the player back to X. Okay, and at the end we have to update our status label, because a new turn is happening. So set status label dot text to a join text block turn colon space, and this is right click duplicate the current player. Okay, and this is done. So I hope you liked this tutorial, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of the great projects that I've planned for you. Thank you for watching. Have a good day and goodbye.